The night hike. It was supposed to be just a fun night out. Jerome and his friends, Wendell, Mikhail, and Anwil, had planned the night hike for weeks. They wanted to do something thrilling, something different from their usual weekend hangouts. The idea was to hike to an old abandoned fire lookout at the top of a nearby mountain and spend the night there, telling ghost stories under the stars. The trail was long and winding, cutting through dense forests that seemed to close in around them as the night grew darker. The group was in high spirits, laughing and joking as they hiked, their flashlights casting long, wavering shadows on the path. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Mikhail asked, a hint of unease in his voice. The trail had started to look less like a path and more like a game trail, overgrown and barely visible in the dark. "Yeah, I'm sure," Anwil said, though he didn't sound completely convinced. "It should be just a little further ahead." They pressed on, but as they did, the atmosphere around them seemed to change. The forest grew unnaturally quiet, the only sounds their footsteps crunching on the leaves and the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. The laughter died down, replaced by an uneasy silence. "Maybe we should turn back," Wendell suggested, glancing around nervously. "This place gives me the creeps." "We've come this far," Jerome said, trying to sound braver than he felt. "It's probably just up ahead." They continued walking, but the further they went, the more disoriented they became. The trail seemed to twist and turn in ways it shouldn't have, leading them deeper into the forest. Anwil checked his phone, but there was no signal. "Guys, I don't think we're on the right trail anymore," he admitted, a note of panic creeping into his voice. Before anyone could respond, a low, distant sound echoed through the trees, a sound that sent a shiver down their spines. It was a soft, almost inaudible hum, but there was something unnatural about it, like a distant voice calling out to them. "What was that?" Mikhail whispered, clutching Jerome's arm. "I don't know," he replied, his voice barely more than a breath. The humming grew louder, closer, and it was no longer just a hum. It was a whisper, a chorus of voices murmuring in the dark, their words unintelligible but filled with malice. "Let's get out of here," Wendell said, his voice trembling. "Now!" They turned back the way they came, but the trail was gone. In its place was a thick fog that seemed to swallow the light from their flashlights, leaving them in almost complete darkness. Panic set in as they tried to find their way back, but every direction they turned seemed to lead them deeper into the fog. The whispers grew louder, closer, until it felt like they were surrounded. Then, out of the fog, shapes began to emerge, dark figures moving silently through the trees, their eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. The friends froze in terror, unable to move as the figures drew nearer. Suddenly the fog parted, and the group found themselves standing at the edge of a cliff, the ground dropping away sharply beneath their feet. The whispers were all around them now, rising to a crescendo as the figures closed in. "Run!" Jerome shouted, but it was too late. The figures reached out, their hands cold and clammy as they grabbed at the friends, pulling them toward the edge of the cliff. The ground crumbled beneath them, and with a final, terrified scream, they were pulled into the void. When the search party found them the next morning, they were lying at the bottom of the cliff, their bodies broken and lifeless. No one could explain how they had gotten there, or what had driven them off the trail. But the locals knew. They whispered of the old legends, of the spirits that haunted the mountain, luring unsuspecting hikers to their doom. And they knew one thing for sure: the mountain claimed whoever dared to venture there after dark.